seeing this movie be a massive success and watching this movie again continues to show me why history proves yet again you don't bet against James Cameron. Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back, because today I'm going to give you guys a spoiler review for Avatar: The Way of Water, which just came out a couple of weeks ago and has already surpassed $1 billion already, and I had the chance to see it 2 more times since I made my review for it in IMAX 3D. So now it's time for me to give you guys my spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, then do not watch this video. Go see the movie in theaters and then see yourself right back here, because I am not going to hold back with spoilers and what plays out in this movie. So this is your only warning, and with that said, let's get started. This movie takes place a decade after the events of Avatar, as we previously saw Jake Sully lead Neytiri and the Omaticaya clan to victory against the humans. And one of the biggest questions I had coming into this movie was, how is Miles Quaritch back? Because we saw him die at the end of the first movie as Neytiri shot him in the chest twice with her arrows. And it turns out that in this movie that he's now in an Avatar body, and that they used his memories from before the events of Quaritch in the final battle, and they sent it back to Earth, and they grew a Na'vi body exclusively for him during that decade-year time between the events of these movies. And then he is sent on a mission to go find and kill Jake Sully because of what happened in the events of the first movie. I liked that instead of having it be somehow they brought that Miles Quaritch back to life, despite clearly being shot in the chest, that rather than bring back that version of Quaritch, we sort of get a clone where it's Quaritch with the same memories and personality, but this is Quaritch from birth all the way to before the final battle of that first movie. So he hasn't yet been killed by Jake Sully or Neytiri in the movie. And so I like the reasoning why he is back, rather than just simply being he's resurrected from what happened in the first movie. And he is such a despicable villain. He had no problems almost killing kids. He burns down villages, helps kill whales. This man is a madman. He is one of the best villains I've seen in movies this year, and he's written so well, and I love Stephen Lang's performance, especially now that we're seeing him in an Avatar body, and he is so cool in terms of the design, and he is such a fierce and ferocious villain that when we see Jake Sully and the crew fight Quaritch in the third act, it's very satisfying, and I really like what the movie does with Quaritch a lot. So that's the reasoning why he's back, and I think they do a really good job at explaining how he's back, and I think it worked really well for me. Another important aspect of the movie is the human son of Jake and Neytiri named Spider. They end up revealing in this movie that Spider is the son of Miles Quaritch, and that he's been left behind to live on Pandora after the events of Avatar, because children cannot be put in cryosleep as they go back to Earth. And so he stayed on Pandora, and he's kind of like a stray cat to the Sully family because he hangs out with the kids a lot. And so a big thing that happens in this movie that jumpstarts everything is Miles Quaritch and his crew, they catch the kids, and Jake, Sully, and Neytiri were able to get them all out of there, except for Spider. And Spider ends up being stuck with Quaritch and them for the majority of the movie. We end up seeing the bond between them sort of start to be there, despite the fact that Quaritch is a madman and a maniac, while Spider is totally against a lot of the things Quaritch and them have been doing in this movie. And so it leads to this character being like, his motivations, what are his real goals? Is he trying to support Jake Sully and the family, or is he trying to help Quaritch and them? And it's one of the aspects of the movie I hear a lot of debate about with Spider as a character. I like him. I like Jack Champion as his character. I do think that this movie does leave room to see where he goes in the sequels because of the decisions he made in this movie that I will get into later on in this video. But it turns out he's the son of Quaritch, which I like. There are some resemblances you can see there. And I did enjoy the scenes between Spider and Quaritch, despite both of them being at odds with one another. And Sigourney Weaver returns to the Avatar series in this sequel as Kiri, the daughter of Jake and Neytiri. And I was curious for a while, how exactly are they bringing back Sigourney into the movies, because her previous character, Grace Augustine, was killed in the first movie. And they tried to save her in the first movie in the Tree of Souls, but that ended up not happening. And so what ended up taking place is Sigourney Weaver plays Kiri. But she's not the biological daughter of Neytiri, but rather she is born of Grace's avatar. And the movie explains that she's born through unknown ways. They don't know exactly how Kiri was born, but she is, and that she was born out of Grace's avatar. And I have a suspicion that this is Awa trying to make up for the fact that she couldn't save Grace, and that rather than Awa resurrecting Grace from that first movie, it's like, to the best that Awa can do, Awa decides to bring Kiri into the world from Grace's avatar. And it made me feel like, could Kiri be a reincarnated Grace in this movie? It does feel like this is something that could be explored in the next 3 movies, and also the fact that we see her do a lot of things in the ocean with all of the reefs and everything in the ocean. So I feel like they definitely made Kiri an interesting character with what she can do and how people see her very differently, because she's very different from everybody. And I'm surprised that that was Sigourney Weaver playing Kiri, because I never sat there thinking that's just her playing a teenager. I fully bought into the fact that Kiri is a teenager, and Sigourney plays her so well, and I love how she plays off of everybody. She's a really good character, one of my favorites of the movie. But with what Kiri was able to do, whether it's in the ocean, seeing what the other Na'vi saw her do, and so as Ranal and everybody, she's definitely a very interesting character with how she was born under mysterious circumstances from Grace's avatar. And I have my suspicions that she may be a reincarnated Grace, because Sigourney Weaver is playing her, and how she was born, and so as the abilities she seems to have in this movie when they're in the ocean, with how she connects to Awa and how she's able to control some of the ocean life underwater to her advantage. So they definitely set up some really interesting things for her moving forward, because we now have 2 movies. We have 3 sequels left at the moment, and it definitely feels like they're setting things up for Kiri to be a very big character moving forward in the franchise, because there's a lot of interesting things we've learned and see Kiri do that I'm really curious to see what they do with her moving forward. Another big storyline and aspect of this movie is Lo'ak and the Tok'an Payakan in this movie. The underwater scenes with both of them, phenomenal. Some of the best uses of underwater in a movie I have ever seen in my life. It is a really awesome thing in this movie where we see Lo'ak, after almost dying in the ocean from a mysterious creature, Payakan comes in and saves Lo'ak, and then Lo'ak ends up befriending Payakan. And we see them have this bond with each other where they will do anything for one another, especially in the 3rd act when Lo'ak was in danger and Payakan comes in to stop Korich and them. I really like the bond they both have. It's very heartwarming, and especially because there is a message here about protecting the oceans, protecting the ocean life because of what we're at with the world right now. And so that aspect of the movie is done very well. I really cared for Lo'ak as a character. He is also a character that gets so much focus here, where we're seeing makes a lot of choices that puts him at odds with everybody. He's a really interesting character, and I really like Britton Dalton as Lo'ak. And it's just like I said with Kiri, I feel like it definitely feels like they're setting up Lo'ak to be a bigger presence in the Avatar movies going forward. And for now, with this dynamic with Payakan, it's really heartwarming seeing how Lo'ak learns of what happened to Payakan, why people see Payakan as an outsider, what does Lo'ak do to help him with all the things going on in this movie. It's just really well done. I love this stuff a lot, especially when we're just seeing Payakan and Lo'ak just swim and travel through the ocean ecosystem. It's beautiful. It's some of the best I've ever seen in this movie. And I really like what they do with them in this movie, with how Lo'ak is at odds with everybody, but there's a good message behind it, and so as how it leads to Lo'ak's character progression throughout this movie. And I really like what they do with Lo'ak and Payakan here. They're a big aspect of the movie once you get midway through, but I really enjoy their stuff overall. Sam Worthington returns once again as Jake Sully, and I love him in this movie. We're now seeing Jake Sully in a new phase of life, where now he's a father and a husband. He's trying to do whatever it takes to protect his family, and we saw him become one with the Amatakai clan in the first movie, but he made the hard choice to exile him and the family from the Amatakai clan so that he can disappear and protect his family after what took place in the first act of this movie. And we see them meet the Metcalina clan. I like seeing Jake Sully in this new phase of life. We're seeing him in a much different place than where he was in the first movie, and how he's trying to be there for the kids, try to be the best he can be. And he's just so good in this movie. I love Sam Worthington once again as Jake Sully, and I like him even more here because I liked him in the first movie. But as a character, I liked him just even more in this one. There's a lot more new things they do with him to where even if he isn't in this movie as often as in the first Avatar movie, I love what they do with him overall. He's still one of the better characters in the movie. And so as what he goes on throughout the movie, where he learns that he can't just keep running away from danger, and that by the end of the movie, he realizes he must encounter the danger, that he, the family, and the Metkayina clan will stand their ground, and that they will take the fight to humanity. Really well done. I love what they do with him throughout this movie, and seeing how, yeah, he could be a little bit too hard on the kids, but he really just wants to keep them safe, especially with all the stuff that played out in this movie. And just seeing him in this new phase of life is really good. We're now seeing change to where we're not repeating things about the first Avatar movie explicitly for his character. And I love that we see how this is a family movie. We're seeing Jake Sully do whatever it takes to keep the family safe. He was able to take them to a whole new area because he is so dead set on making sure that everybody is okay and protecting everybody so that when Korch and them come for them, that no one else would be in danger. It is very well done. James Cameron knows how to write Jake Sully very well, and he shows once again how to in this movie. And it's elevated in this movie by the fantastic performance from Sam Worthington. Earlier on in this movie, Miles Korch learns that humanity is dying. The RDA have returned to Pandora a decade after the events of the first movie, and we learned that they're not here now to mine for unobtainium, but they're now trying to colonize Pandora because Earth is apparently dying, humanity is on the brink, and now they're trying to colonize Pandora to be the new home for humanity, but before they can continue doing that, they must fight the Na'vi because the Na'vi are against them.
Interesting. No.
And this definitely seems to be another big thing that will be a big focus in the later movies, because at first they were just mining for unobtainium on Pandora, but unobtainium is nowhere to be found in this movie. We now have RDA being here to mine for this new thing called Amrita, which is an anti-aging enzyme that could slow down or prevent human aging from happening. And that doesn't get much focus here. It's definitely just added here, but I was able to just give it a pass because James Cameron was still very effective with what he's trying to communicate with the story, and that it's not the main reason why Miles Korch is doing what he does in this movie. He's solely just on a revenge mission. And it seems like later on we're definitely going to see more that humanity is dying, and that we're trying to see humanity trying to survive and colonize Pandora so that they can survive. But this is the series of movies where I've never disliked humans more so than I have in this movie. They are awful. Even though there's a good few humans, like Norm, for example, you see the humans do so many horrible things in this movie, and I'm very curious to see where will they end up by the end of this franchise. We saw where they end up in the first movie. We saw where they end up in this one. It definitely seems like we're going to see more of the fact that humanity is on the brink, and that they are going to continue to colonize Pandora as long as they breathe, because the Earth is apparently not in a good place, which does reference the fact that global warming, all of these things, Earth, we need to do whatever it takes to protect this Earth, because we don't have another planet to go to. This is our only planet, our only option right now, and we got to take care of it. And it seems like James Cameron's really trying to get that message across with this whole thing. And he did tease in an interview, I hear in a sequel, not the next one, but perhaps Avatar 5, that we're going to see the Na'vi go to Earth. And I'm very curious and excited to see where they go with that in the franchise. James Cameron is a master of third acts and spectacle, because Avatar The Way of Water has one of the best climaxes I've seen in a movie all year, especially how it kicks off with Tuk, Loak, and Sirea being captured by Korch and the RDA, and how it starts off being a mission where Jake Sully has to turn himself in for their lives, and then Paya Khan comes in, and then the Metkayina clan them, they start attacking the RDA, and it's wild. It's full of awesome action sequences, whether it takes place in the ocean, up on the ship, or in the air. There's so many things happening, yet it's so cool just seeing the Na'vi go full force on the humans. And there's a lot of death, there's a lot of destruction, there's a lot of chaotic moments happening here, but it's so well shot and well visualized, and there's a lot of heart and weight behind everything that I like that at some point in this movie, it goes on to the point where it was daytime until it becomes night. And it goes on for a while in this movie, especially with the time zone difference. It's really well done. And although the Metkayina clan did just disappear at some point in this climax, and then it's all focused on Jake, Sully, and the family against them, I like that it makes it more personal because this is a family story and how family tried to survive and they endure all the things they're enduring. It's really cool. And I love that it gets even more dangerous where there's stakes and we don't know if everyone's going to make it out alive. And sadly, Neytiri dies, the oldest son of Jake and Neytiri. And that was such a heartbreaking and devastating moment with how just he did one thing for Loak and that they helped save Spider, but Neytiri is fatally shot and killed, and how we see Neytiri scream in agony. Zoe Saldaña is fantastic in this movie, and her screams, it hit me so hard when Neytiri passed away because it was a devastating moment and how it affects everybody, and Jake realizes that, nah, we gotta wrap this up. We're not running away. We gotta take the fight to them and stop them once and for all. And then after Neytiri died and Jake, Sully, and the family are going to go on the ship to stop this once and for all, we see Neytiri go on a spree. She's killing humans left and right. And we see Jake, Sully finally fight Quaritch for the first time in this movie. This is the first time they're physically in the same location as they go toe-to-toe with one another. It is really cool just seeing them both. They're now in Avatar bodies. They're equally matched. They're equally as powerful as each other. And they're fighting one another to the death. And we're seeing that all this revenge mission they've been going on throughout this movie, this is where the payoff takes place. And it's so cool watching them fight each other, beating each other up, and whether it's on the ship or whether it's in the water. And it culminates where Jake Sully manages to get the drop on Quaritch and suffocates him. And he drops him, having us hope that Quaritch is dead until Spider saves him later on. And that's the one character decision I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, that if there's one decision in the movie that kind of had me scratching my head, it was Spider saving Quaritch. Now, he is the son of Quaritch, and I can see that aspects of why he would save him, even on rewatches, but it's still the thing where it basically means all of the upcoming destruction that will happen in Avatars 3, 4, and 5, that will happen under Quaritch's hand, because he's the main villain of all these movies. It's all going to be because of Spider, because Spider wouldn't just let him die. I get that he's the father, and I can see why they have Spider do it, despite all the things that Spider had to go through in this movie, with seeing Quaritch like fight a banshee and just with all things going on. I can see aspects as to why that would take place, although it does feel like this is going to make Spider look so guilty when the rest of these movies play out and we see that, yeah, Quaritch causes more destruction and they realize, oh shoot, Quaritch didn't die back on the ship like Jake thought he did, and it's going to be, Spider, it's your fault because you let him live. And so that has me curious to see where things go, especially because it doesn't look like Neytiri and Spider see eye to eye. So I'm curious to see where that goes in the follow-ups. Something I noticed on my recent viewing of Avatar: The Way of Water that I did not see before was the high frame rate piece. Movies like The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey had high frame rate where things are moving a lot faster in just a short time. This movie had a lot of that on the action sequences, whether they're on the ocean and whatnot. There are a lot of sequences here that I did not catch on my first two viewings that were now used in high frame rate, and James Cameron does a really good job at using high frame rate without making me or any other people feel nauseous or sick. It's really cool how he makes it work, especially with 3D, because I'm not really a big 3D person, but I cannot imagine watching this movie in anything other than IMAX 3D because it genuinely looks beautiful and dazzling in IMAX 3D. And then in the end, Jake Sully comes to Tonawari and Ronal and tells them that he and the family are going to depart tomorrow, but because they buried Neytiri deep within the ocean of the Metkayina clan, they decide, nah, you're now one with the Metkayina clan. You are now at home with us. And then Jake and Neytiri take a trip to the Metkayina clan's spirit tree, and they both see visions of Neytiri back when Jake Sully was showing him how to shoot a bow and whether he caught the fish or not. It was so beautiful because of how Neytiri has passed away, and just seeing how Jake Sully has changed over the course of this movie. It's a really beautiful moment to have Jake Sully just have one scene with Neteyam in AWA after his passing back in the third act of this movie. And then it ends where Jake Sully admits that he cannot keep running. He and the family has to stay their ground, and that they will take the fight to humanity, and that they will do whatever it takes to continue fighting in the war against humanity for the protection and safety of Pandora. In the end, I really liked Avatar: The Way of Water. It's definitely still one of my favorite movies of the year, and I stand by my letter grade I gave it. This is a really good reintroduction to Pandora for the first time in 13 years. It is one of the best-looking movies I've ever seen, and James Cameron shows once again why he is a master of sequels. And as much as I did like the first Avatar, I think Avatar: The Way of Water is even better than that first movie because I felt more connected to the characters, and I felt more emotion out of this one here. So I really love it. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, and this spoiler review has definitely solidified to me that I really love this movie and that it's one of my favorite movies of the year, and I am so excited for the future of the Avatar franchise moving forward. So yeah, that's my spoiler review for Avatar: The Way of Water. What are your thoughts on it? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Stay tuned for some upcoming videos I have planned. I'm going to have my best movies of the year video coming up very soon. So stay tuned for all that fun stuff coming your way very soon. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.